We're now finishing up all the parshas of Yaakov and Yosef and the brothers, and we're getting to the end of part Sefer Bereshis. Now there's a cloud that the parshas of the Torah, they're divided up into Pei and Samach. That's right. There's a psucha, there's a parsha which is psucha and a parsha which is stuma. Once in a while, there are a few places which is just one long parsha, is not broken up at all. We find this in Vayetze, when Yaakov ran away from Esav, ran away to Lavan. The whole parshas Vayetze is just one long parsha. So the Sefer Das Kein Bali Tosfos, he makes a comment over there that why is it one long parsha? Because it's all one long. Yaakov is escaping, one long escape of Yaakov away from his brother Esav. So it's one long parsha. So therefore it doesn't break up. There's another parsha which is one long parsha and it's not broken up. I didn't find any of the Meforshim who explained it, but I think it's a very simple explanation. Parshas Miketz. Parshas Miketz, last week's parsha, is one long parsha, it's not broken up. And then if you look at Vayigash, the first half of Vayigash is also one long parsha, and it's not broken up.
Also between the Parshias is not broken? What's
All the way, the first half of Vayigash.
yeah, between Miketz and Vayigash.
No, between there's a samach there. Between Miketz and Vayigash, there's a samach. Yeah. We find in last week's parsha it was a terrible. Poor Yaakov. His Ben Zekunim, Yosef. He sent him to go find out what's going on with the brothers. They were tardy. They didn't come back from Shechem in they're shepherding the flocks. Go find out what's going on with them. And then he gets the news. He's been eaten by a wild animal. And here's the tunic. He's in a Avelis. He put all his efforts into Yosef. Tragedy. It's a tragedy. And he couldn't be consoled. 22 years he was in Avelis for Yosef. And then there's a famine. And he sends the brothers down to Mitzrayim to get some food. He won't let Benjamin out of his sight. Benjamin is the only legacy that he has from his wife, his late wife, Rachel. Not letting him out of his sight. He's afraid something's going to happen. All of a sudden, the brothers come back without Shimon, and they tell him that the king suspected us of being spies, and he was very harsh on us. And he kept Shimon as hostage until we bring the other brother, Benjamin. It's a tragedy. He didn't want to let Benjamin out of his sight. Yosef einenu, Shimon einenu, and now you want to take Benjamin. And then he makes a statement. Lama haroisim li, why'd you do this evil to me? To tell that man that there's another brother. The brothers explained we didn't just tell him. He started probing and asking questions. You can't not answer the king. He asked very, very specific questions. He had some sort of crystal ball. He knew exactly what was going on in our house. He knew which wood the cradles were made. The cradles were made of. Just looked in his crystal ball and he knew what wood,
The Bethel.
yeah.
Gavia.
He had a Gavia. But Chazal were very, very critical of Yaakov for that statement. What was his statement? Why have you caused this evil to me? So the Chazal tell us, Yaakov, in all the history of Yaakov, he had such betachin. He had such betachin. He had the nevuah of the Sulam. He had miraculous hatzlacha with Lavan and the sheep. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu was with him 22 years, and he came out, he walked in totally destitute, and he walked out a millionaire. And he had total betachin. He fought with Esav's Malach, and he was victorious. All of a sudden, he's got a statement, why have you caused this evil to me? What do you mean? You, the brothers, caused the evil? That's a silly statement. That's a silly statement. The Chazal call it Davar Shabbatola. Here I am being Mamlech, your son, as Melech Mitzrayim. I'm doing all this for you. And you say, why is this evil? And why have you caused the evil to me? What do you mean you caused the evil? I didn't. Who do you think did this? Who do you think did all this? It's very harsh criticism on Yaakov. But it enlightens us why the Parsha Miketz is all one long Parsha. Because it's all one long Parsha of a Kodesh Baruch Hu crowning Yosef as the king over Mitzrayim. In order that there was a Gezerah. There was a Gezerah of Avram Avinu, the Bris Bein Besorim, they had to go down to Mitzrayim. Everything was orchestrated to a T by the Ribbono Shel Olam. Exactly what's going to happen. They needed a place in Mitzrayim. Why they have to go down to Mitzrayim? To be Makayim, it doesn't say Mitzrayim in the Bris Bein Besorim. It's very interesting. They didn't need it doesn't say Mitzrayim in the Bris Bein Besorim. Why did they need Mitzrayim? This was to make us a nation. If they would have stayed, there's a very important sforno I just found. Where should in an Eretz Lo Lahem, where should the Gezerah or the Bris Bein Besorim take place? In Eretz Canaan? They were friendly with the Canaanim. They were doing business with the Canaanim. The Canaanim loved the Jewish people, as we see from the Ma'aseh with Shechem and Dinah. They loved the Jewish people. If the Jews, if the Yidden, the brothers, would have stayed in Eretz Canaan, they would have intermarried. And we know that Abraham and Yisroch were very, very adamant not to marry Canaanim. Esav, he married Canaanim, the Chivi. There's in their blood, there's a rottenness, they're rotten to the core in their blood. Can't understand that. I mean, that's you go to racist today if you say such a thing. But they were in their core, in their neshama. There was a rottenness. They were cursed. They were cursed. Eved Kanani, they were cursed. Eliezer, Eved Avram, he was cursed. He was an Eved Kanani. He couldn't marry. He wanted to marry his daughter off to Yitzchak, and Avram wouldn't let him because he was cursed. If they would have stayed in Canaan, there would have been intermarriage. HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to get them down to Mitzrayim. What does it say about the Mitzrayim? The Mitzrayim hated, they were disgusting. It says when Yosef brought the brothers in and they had a luncheon, so he had to set the brothers separate from the rest of the Canaanim because they would have gotten sick of eating at the same table with a Jew. That's how bad they couldn't stand it. So for the Yidden, it was the best place to be. There would be no intermarriage. They would be ghettoized in the land of Goshen and not have any connection with them at all. That's the best thing for us. Agavorcha, Victor Miller says, the best thing for the Jews is anti-Semitism. It keeps us away from them. It keeps us away from them. It stops the intermarriage. When the anti-Semitism I'm being taped right now, but I'm going to say it. Anti-Semitism on the United States universities is the best thing that ever happened. Get the Jews out of the universities. It's a hotbed of leftist, liberal indoctrination, and it's not a place for a Jew to be.
Rob, what about Yehuda's first wife, and also about Reuben has a son?
It says no.
He is a
Yehuda's
Tamar,
first wife. It says
merchant.
Yehuda's first wife was a merchant. It says Kanani, and everybody interprets it as a merchant. They have a reason. They're forced to interpret it as a merchant. It wasn't a Kanani.
Reuben has a son like Shaul ben Kananis or something. I forget what his name is.
That was from Shechem. Shaul ben Kananis is because Shimon married Dinah. Dinah refused to go with them. She was captured. What's wrong? All they asked is they want to marry Dinah. They kidnapped her. They forced her into the palace. They kidnapped her, and then they go, "Oh, we have your daughter. We want to marry her." I mean, nice guys. Kidnapping. That's Geneva. They're all chayiv misa. That's why they wiped out the city. Everybody, cooperated with kidnapping. Kidnapping a person is the most terrible, one of the most terrible affairs, right? So she wouldn't leave until she knew she had been violated and she couldn't get married. So she wouldn't leave until one of the brothers agreed to marry her. A sister is not for Ben Noach. A sister is not one of the Arias. The only Arias by a Ben Noach, it's a whole long arichas. The only Arias by a Ben Noach is Eshes Ish. But a sister, they all married sisters. They all had two umim. In the Medrash brings down, they all had, they were twins. They married, so they married their sister. There was a lot of marrying of sisters. So she wouldn't leave unless they married sisters. So she's the Ben Kananis. So Shaul, Ben Kananis, and also Yosef's wife was Osnas. It was Bastina. But he didn't want to marry a Mitzri. Mitzrim were just as bad as the Canaanim. He didn't want to marry, but when he found out Osnas was there, so he married her. Anyway, but he said there would have been intermarriage. The best place for the Jews was in Mitzrayim. They were ghettoized, totally separate. And that's how we made it. V'hoyu mitziyonim sham. In Haggadah it says v'hoyu mitziyonim sham. We were special. We were you could tell a Jew. We kept our Jewish identity. We kept the names. We kept the levush. We kept the Jewish identity in Mitzrayim underneath the worst circumstances, and that made us as a nation. That was the Kur HaBarzel. That was the melting pot. It refined us until it's in our blood today. Jews stayed together. We stay the Frum Jews, and we're still here. We're the only nation after 3,000 years since the Yetzias Mitzrayim. We're still here, separate, without a country. Where are the Irish, the American Irish? Yeah, they say he's an Irishman. He's not going to go back to Ireland. American German. They're not going to go back to Germany. All these people become Americanized. I say American. We're here in Israel, but I say Americanized because that's my home country. But only a Yid, no matter where he is, he could be in Australia, South Africa, America, England, Poland, wherever, South America, and they all, we're all Jews. We all come together. We're all brothers, and we don't really, the Fruma Jews, the religious Jews, we have nothing to do with the outside society. Why does that happen? That because it's in our blood now because of Mitzrayim. But what is the Kodesh Baruch Hu's taina on Yaakov? Why have you done bad to me? What do you mean? Why have I done bad? I'm being mamluch your son. There's a where is it? First of all, this was a strategy by the Ribono Shel Olam to get Yaakov to go down to Mitzrayim. Yaakov was royalty. He was aristocracy. It was Roy. What would have happened if Yosef had not been brought down to Mitzrayim? HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have the Medrash. This is the Medrash in several places, also a Gemara. The Kadosh Baruch Hu would have had to drag Yaakov down to Mitzrayim in chains, forcing him to go down somehow or other in order to be Mekayim, the Bris Bein Besorim. That's not nice. He's aristocracy. You don't do that. So Kadosh Baruch Hu arranged his son to go down to be in Mitzrayim. And because his son is there, he went down willingly. He went down willingly. It was, and he knew what Mitzrayim was. He didn't want to go to Mitzrayim because he knew the Bris Bein Besorim, and it was going to start the gezerah of the Shibud Mitzrayim. So he really didn't want to go, but he didn't want to start it. But he went down willingly in order to see Yosef. So Kadosh Baruch Hu orchestrated the whole thing. I want to show you something. Kadosh Baruch Hu is saying, what are you complaining about? The brothers did it? I did it. If you look at the whole history of Yaakov's life through Yosef's life, it's the most amazing manipulation of the events. They were orchestrated to a T. Let's take Yaakov and Esav. Who was the Bechor? Should have been Yaakov. He should have come out first. He was grabbing onto Esav's. Esav pushed his way out, and Yaakov was holding on. That's why it's called Yaakov. He was holding onto the heel, the ache of Esav, because really he should have been first to go out. Because, so what's the difference in age between Yaakov and Esav? A minute? 1 minute? What would have happened if Yaakov had been born first? That 1 minute, what would have happened if Yaakov would have been born first? Yaakov would have been the Bechor.
Would have murdered him in jealousy or something.
Not necessarily. There wouldn't have been any jealousy because there was no jealousy because he wasn't the Bechor. It was only because he was the Bechor he was angry at him stealing the Bechor. But if he's not the Bechor, he would have had nothing to be angry about. So Yaakov would have been the Bechor. He would have gotten the brachas legally, legally get the brachas. His father would have sent, like Avram sent Eliezer to go get a wife from Besuel's house. He would have sent to Rivka's brother Lavan to get a wife. Which wife would have gotten? The Bechorah. The Bechorah was Rachel. Would have brought back Rachel to Yaakov, who would have married only one. Yosef was the Bechor, was supposed to be the Bechor of Rachel. He was the Bechor of Rachel. Yosef would have been the Bechor. There would not have been any jealousy between the brothers. And there wouldn't have been any reason for us to go down to Mitzrayim. The whole story would have been totally different. So what did the Kadosh Baruch Hu do? He made Esav come out first. Esav is the Bechor. But Yaakov is supposed to be the Bechor. So he gave a nevuah to Rivka to be tricky. Now it's not nice to be tricky, especially in Yitzchak's house. In Yitzchak's house, that's the epitome of emes, of truth. And she was tricky and sly, and she did conniving, and she manipulated the whole thing that Yaakov should steal the brachas. Yaakov should steal the brachas. And now Esav hates Yaakov, and he's got to run for his life. So he goes to Lavan, and because he ran to Lavan, and Esav ran after him, sent Eliphaz to run after him, and he was made into a pauper, and he had to work for 14 years for the wives, and Lavan was tricky, and Lavan gave him Leah, and gave him Rachel, and gave him Zilpah, and Bilhah. And he got 4 wives. Yosef is now not the Bechor, because Reuven's the Bechor, right? So he's not the Bechor. And now, but Yosef has now his dreams. Yosef has his dreams, and the dreams were true. He was going to be a melech, and everybody's going to bow down to him. But the brothers thought that he's playing games with them, that he's got dreams of grandeur, and he wants to do a coup d'état and take over, be ruler over the brothers. So they tried to get rid of him. They had a Sanhedrin, they tried to get rid of him, then they sold him, right? Why did they sell him to Egypt? They sold him down to Mitzrayim because they figured that's the way to squash his dreams. Let's see what's going to happen to his dreams. Let's see what's going to happen to his dreams. They're selling him to Mitzrayim, made the dreams come true. They fell into look at this plan. Look at this plan. The Kodesh Baruch Hu orchestrated the whole thing in order to get Yaakov down to Mitzrayim and to make and they needed it. Now Yosef didn't know anything about. He didn't know anything about royalty. What did he know about royalty? He was a yeshiva bacher. Yeshiva bacher understands politics. Yeshiva doesn't. They think they understand politics. They sit at the lunch table. They discuss politics. They don't understand politics. Go into politics, then you understand politics. How to be a real cheat. So that Yeshiva bacher is naive and tamimis and he was the Ben Zakunim, and Yaakov taught him everything. He's a yeshiva bacher. What does Yosef know about politics? He gets sold into Potiphar's house. Potiphar is one of the high dignitaries. He's one of the members of Paro's cabinet. And he's learning, he's got the body language of how to speak to the cabinet members, right? All the politicians and how and what the hanhog is, the minhagim of Egypt is. He's learning this. He's very, very smart. He picked it up right away. He picked up everything right away. And then he gets thrown into jail, but not just any jail. It wasn't just a jail. This is a high class, what do you call, blue collar jail, right? He was in a blue collar jail, high class, and all the political prisoners were there.
Like today.
Yeah.
No, today they'll do that. You get a little bail and let you out.
Yeah, all the political prisoners were there, right? You got the Sarah Mashkin, the head caterer, and the head baker. He wasn't the head baker. These people were. Once you're the head baker, you're in the cabinet. You have to be trustworthy to be the head baker because the head wine steward. You have to be careful, because he's the guy who could poison the king. So he knew everything what was going on. He rubbed shoulders. Yosef was rubbing shoulders with all the dignitaries and listening. And how does the palace work? He was there for 10 years learning the ins and outs of the palace because that's what do you think they talked about the whole day? All those prisoners. And then he knew exactly how to talk to Paro. And when after 12 years in the prison, they whisked him out, and he's speaking to Paro properly. He knew exactly the language to speak to Paro. He knew how to how to butter up Paro, how to speak to him in third person and to speak to him nicely, and he gave him an eitzah. Who told you to give him an eitzah? He has to interpret the dream, not to give an eitzah that you have to appoint to somebody. He knew what Paro wanted, and he knew how to express it, and Paro was so impressed. This is the guy. And he became king. He became king. And in order to make the Jews accepted, he knew the Jews are going to come down there. In order to make the Jews accepted, so during the 7 years of famine, so he during the 2 years of famine, it was only 2 years of famine. He gathered all the money during the 7 years, all the produce in the 7 years, and then during the 2 years of famine, he bought up all the land, made everybody an Eved, made everybody move. He gave everybody bris milah. They shouldn't time the Jews out, these circumcised heathens. No, everybody had a bris milah. He forced it on them, and so therefore, when the Yidden came down, they were not totally out of place, and they weren't totally hated by the Mitzrayim. And he set up Goshen as a ghetto. It was a very large area. He gave them a very wide, very wonderful land, but it was a ghetto. They stay in your ghetto, and the Mitzrayim wanted nothing to do with these people who eat lamb. Lamb was the god of Mitzrayim. You don't eat the lamb.
God eaters.
Huh? Yeah. And Yaakov says, why is this evil happening to me? Huh? Yaakov is saying, why is this evil happening to me? The whole thing was manipulated. What does this teach us?
What we see when the tzaddikim do mistakes, we see their punishment and everything. This is something that goes like, they say it in one word, doesn't say also he did something wrong.
It says, Davar Shabbat
That the Meforshim say it.
And Meforshim says it was Davar Shabbat because he should have been toilet it in Hashgacha Pratis, and instead he was toilet it in Hester Panim.
Right, but in the text you don't see criticize him, and you don't see also that he got punished for it. Well, it's a big mistake. It's not a Dvarim Shabbatol. It sounds like a type of kfirah if you really think about it.
The Rosh Hashiva, the Scheinberg Zatzal, he talks about it, and a lot of Meforshim talk about it. It was a minor mistake. In other words, and this is the mistake we make. You believe in Hashgacha Pratis? No? You believe in Hashgacha Pratis? We all believe it. If you've been here for all my shirim, so you believe by now in Hashgacha Pratis. We believe, everybody asks me, but if you want to have B'tachon, you have to believe in Hashgacha Pratis. The Kadosh Baruch Hu is taking care of you. So we believe in Hashgacha Pratis. So when things go wrong, what do we think? There's Ha'oris Panim, and there's Hester Panim. There's Ha'oris Panim where things go right, everything clicks, everything clicks, and it goes Geshmirt. And then there's Hester Panim, it's smooth.
Fluent.
Just go, it moves.
Schmiert.
Schmiert.
Schmiert. Schmier. Schmier.
Yeah.
That way you
Schmiert.
And then there's something called Hester Panim. Kadosh Baruch Hu many times has to do things through Hester Panim. Either because of our aveiros, we're not worthy. Maybe we're not worthy. Maybe we're not worthy to be worthy of Ha'oris Panim. You have to be worthy of Ha'oris Panim. But on our Madrega, we don't have miracles happening to us, so we don't really have a Ha'oris. We don't have a Ha'oris Panim. We say Yoreh Hashem, Yoreh Hashem, Yoreh Hashem Aleichem. Yoreh Hashem Panav Eilecha. What's Yoreh Hashem Panav Eilecha? It's the Ha'oris Panim. We're davening for Ha'oris Panim. Hashem should shine His face on you. Everything should be obvious. Clear. Everything should be obvious, but it's not, because it's right after Shemitah. Do we see all all of a sudden all the bounty coming, like, after Shemitah is supposed to have 3 years worth of bounty, to fill up the silos again. And life is as usual, We're still importing tomatoes from Jordan. I don't know, but so things were as usual. We had a daven for the rain. It came late. I hope the wheat crop didn't get ruined, So this is Hester Punim. Things are not exactly. They're not. A person tries to make a deal in business, and it's sort of like, either you could be driving a car and you have a clear highway and you put the gas on and you just go, or you're driving in heavy traffic and you're it's jerky because you're constantly having to put the brakes on, and that's the way you're doing your business, with the brakes on all the time, because it doesn't go. That's Hester upon him. Yaakov saw Hester upon him. He says, why is the Kodesh Baruch Hu being noyeg with me with Hester upon him? So the Chazal are criticizing him. It's not it's called the Davar Shabbatol. It's a mild criticism. He knew Chas Shalom, that he thought that it's Teva, that there's Kafira. Chas Shalom, Yaakov was a kofer. He didn't believe in Hashgacha Pratis. He knew it's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But he felt that it was done, that his Kadosh Baruch Hu was being noyeg with him with Hester Punim. What Chazal had a taina on him was,
Lama Roisem,
you, the brothers.
It sounds like pretty.
It's okay. Anyway, the Meforshim were bothered by this, and they interpreted Chas v'Shalom. You can't say that Chas v'Shalom, Yaakov was not a kofer.
So he was coming to them with what he did wrong.
No. Why'd you have to tell him that you have another brother? I mean, he had a taina. And they answered him, it was because but the fact that he deep down he felt there was a Hester upon him. He used the word. He didn't just say, why'd you tell him you have another brother? He says, Lama harois, and why'd you do evil to me by telling him it's another brother? They did the evil, because Baruch Hu does the evil, but it wasn't. Everything was ha'aretz panim. That's what the Chazal are telling us. You think I took away my hashgacha from you? When things don't go your way, what do you think? HaKadosh Baruch Hu took his hashgacha away from me. So the Chazal are telling us here, and the Meforshim are telling us, that's not true. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is maneuvering and orchestrating every scene in order to get to a certain maskana. In order to get to a certain maskana. And the worst things that happen to us are sometimes the best things that happen. There's an amazing Or HaChaim on the Maisa of Dinah and Shechem. Dinah was violated by Shechem. So we don't think along these lines. The Or HaChaim was he knew all of Kisvei Arizal. He knew all of Kisvei Arizal. It was a big makubal, and he tries to hide it. But he says, "I'm going to let you in on a little secret." Why they have to go down to Mitzrayim? The Sforno says they had to go to Mitzrayim. The reason I just told you. The Or HaChaim is a different reason why they had to go to Mitzrayim. Because when Adam HaRishon did his chet, this is something we can't understand. But when Adam HaRishon did his chet, so he had all the neshamas of all the neshamas of everybody, all the billions of people, for all the generations, were in Adam HaRishon. And when he did a chet, pieces of it wasn't just his neshama, he was made up of billions of neshamas. The Sitra Achra, the Chazal call him Sam, Samach Mem. I call him Uncle Sam, call him Uncle Sam. So the Sam, the Kodesh Baruch Hu created the Sitra Achra. He created the Satan. He created the Satan with a power, and the Satan captured millions of neshamas. He captured them. And he hid them. And the most holy of the neshamas, he hid in the most worst place where they couldn't escape. And that was Mitzrayim. So the Yidden had to go to Mitzrayim. Somehow or other, by our being in Mitzrayim, we pulled. It says that they emptied out Mitzrayim. What did it say? They emptied out Mitzrayim like a fishnet that has no fish. They cleaned it out. So people think that means they cleaned it out of money. It's also true. Cleaned all the money from Mitzrayim went to the Yidden. But they cleaned it out of all neshamas. So the Kisvei Arizal, all the neshamas that were hidden in Mitzrayim, they had the holiest of neshamas. So when the Jews gave birth, so the neshamas went into the Yidden, and they gave birth, and they had a population explosion. And then when we stood at Har Sinai, so all those neshamas finally got the tikkun that they were waiting for from the time of Adam Arishon. Thousands of years waiting for a tikkun, they got it at Har Sinai. They were holy neshamas. There was a holy neshama in Shechem. There was a holy neshama in Shechem, and it had to come out. So the Kodesh Baruch Hu, Chas v'Sholom, he had to orchestrate a terrible incident where Dinah was violated by Shechem ben Chomor, and it was Rachvis Yadayim. Zot the Orach Chaim. What's Rachvis Yadayim? It's Rashi Tevis. Rabbi Chanina ben Tradian. The neshama of Rabbi Chanina ben Tradian was captured and hiding, prisoner, inside of Shechem. And then when he violated Dinah, so that neshama went out, and therefore there was nothing left, no reason to keep Shechem alive anymore. So the Klal Yisrael was given the ability to wipe them out. And one of the descendants, l'chera, of Osnas and Yosef, because that was Osnas was from that incident. So Osnas married Yosef, and one of the descendants was Chanina ben Tradian, one of the holiest Tanoim that we ever had. Do we understand why things are happening? We don't understand why things are happening. Why Kodesh Baruch Hu is doing all these things. I want to read with you a Ramchal. We'll read together a Ramchal. It's a very interesting Ramchal.
Isn't that we don't understand? So we did understand. We start doing.
I'm
sins,
telling you don't
and we
understand.
start sitting the Shema like, oh, it's okay because.
No, we have to realize we
don't.
don't. When something bad happens, have Amuna in a Kodesh. Listen, I always say, Adheno as a Runa Rachamech v'lo as a Runa Chasadech. We say in Nishmas, Adheno as a Runa Rachamech v'lo as a Runa Chasadech. Kodesh Baruch, you never let me down until now. Al Tishenu Hashem Elokeinu Nesach. So the Gra says, I have betochen, you're not going to let me down now. The fact that we see in the past that Kodesh Baruch Hu took care of us, so when things are not going our way, He's not going to let us down. He's there. He's manipulating it. It's something's good's going to come out of this. I have to give another shir on the difference between this Kol Diavad Rahman L'Tavavid and Gamzu L'Tova. There's a very important lesson in there of it's good. On one hand, I don't want to go into it now, but we would normally interpret as Kol Diavad Rahman L'Tavavid, Gamzu L'Tova. It's going to turn out good, which is the normal way of understanding it, right? Gamzu L'Tova. This is going to be good in the end. Right now it looks bad. In the end, it's going to look good. We'll talk about it at a different time, maybe next time. So the Shomer Amunim says, in the name of the Besht, the Baal Shem says, there's another pshat. Gamzu L'Tova, it's good now. It's being worked out now. This is good right now, being worked out. When Yosef got captured, it got sent into Mitzrayim, it was good because it was the best thing, like I just explained, to set up the Yid in Mitzrayim and bring Yaakov down in royalty and in dignity, and to prepare the land of Goshen so that they can survive 400 years. It was supposed to be 400 years in Mitzrayim. It was lowered to 210, but it was supposed to be 400 years. They had to last, and they lasted. without intermarriage, without integration into the Egyptian society. It was good. It was the best thing. So the Ramchal, you have to know Akdama Gedola. It says Ba'omnam in the middle of the page. On the bottom it says 215. Omnam yesh l'chol ladas Akdama Gedola. Shebe'emes ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu moyes yegia kapov la'olam. We're his. He made us. We are his produce. We are his creation. He never gives up on us. He never gets disgusted with us. Eino oizev u'maniach es ha'olam. He doesn't just let, like the Goyim say, he wound up the clock and just let it go, and then he went to Hawaii for vacation. That's not God. He's always involved. When it looks like he's totally there's only tragedies. He's mechadish tuvo la'olamo. He's doing something good. When he wants to do something good, he will do it in such a roundabout way. It looks bad. There's a reason for it. We don't necessarily understand the reason. One of the reasons is the Ramban says. One of the reasons is that there should be bechira chavshis. And we see there is bechira chavshis because when there's so many tragedies around, what are the goyim saying? There's no God. When really that's the way he's doing it in such a way. He's fixing everything up. Lola Kilkel. He's master atzaso v'hester godol miyoid. He's covering things up. You can't see it at all. He is the master magician. He does the smoke screen. It's amazing what Kodesh Baruch Hu is the master of smoke screens. You can't see his yad. Then when he's finished, it looks like it's Ozuv, like he left the world. And then gives room for people to get the einish. They have to has to be schar v'einish of their chatoyim. Yaakov Avinu said, "V'yom Yisrael lama haroisimli." Now he quotes our medrash. Rebelei b'shem Reb Chama, "Miyolim lo'am Yaakov Avinu davar shel batola." Again, it's very mild criticism. It's a davar shel batola. He shouldn't have said it. So we see that even Chazal understood he didn't mean chas v'sholom apikorsis. Omer Kodesh Baruch Hu, Ani Yosek lahamech b'noi b'Mitzrayim. I'm being Yosek to get his son made ruler over Mitzrayim, and he says, "Why have you done bad to me? What's happening is the best thing." Nistur Darkim Hashem. So in Yeshaya explained this pasuk, Alama recently, that Yaakov meant Hester Panim. That's where I got it from Pesach. Got it from the pasuk in Yeshaya. Nistur Darkim Hashem. That's what Yaakov meant to say, and the Navi said this is what he meant. Kolzman Shahoy Yaakov Avinu B'tzar. In fact, the whole time that he was B'tzar on Yosef, losing Yosef, his son, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was only Megalgel Gulgulim. He was making all sorts of roundabout incidents to make Yosef the king, and he should sustain Yaakov in Mitzrayim in grandeur, B'shalva. But it was an Eitzah Amuka. Therefore, there was a tsar on Yaakov. There was Eitzah Amuka, meaning a very deep Eitzah. A very deep Eitzah. And the Yaakov felt the tsar. Now he says very important. Zeh Binyanav. You know what a Binyanav is? Yud Gimel Midah Shatar Nidrash B'hem. Binyanav. Binyanav is when you see one rule in the Torah, so you can induce that we can use that rule in other places. It's called the Binyanav. L'kol Eloi sheroitza Kadosh Baruch Hu lo ses la'adam o la'olam. Any wonderful thing, Eloi, advantage, upraising, success, any success that Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to bring on the person or on the world in general. It has to come hidden. And then you have to learn the Ramchals. He's hiding it from the Sotan. I mean, think about it. I mean, Who's the Mashiach? David HaMelech. Okay, David HaMelech. Where David HaMelech come from? Rus. Where Rus come from? Moab. Where Moab come from? Lot and his daughters? Huh? Lot and his daughters? And the worst of the daughters? He had one said Moab from my father, and the other one said Ammon, one of my people. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu chose the one who was the biggest prutza. And from her came Rus. And from Rus had to come the whole Maisa with Boaz. It was to do a Yibum, right? The whole Maisa they had to do Yibum. The whole thing was roundabout. Boaz didn't want to marry her, but he had to. He had to do Yibum, and he married her. And out came, right, the progeny, the ancestors of David HaMelech. And then David HaMelech, there was a whole mice, I won't go into it now. David HaMelech, they thought he was a mamzer. Because his father Yishai had been Polish from an Isha, and then the whole thing over there, and his wife made Asha like she was, and she had relations with her husband. It was her husband. But Yishai didn't realize, and Kitzur came at this kid and said, I haven't had relations with my wife in 3 years. Where'd this kid come from? He's a mamzer. Send him out to the field, let him go to the field, let him be a shepherd, let the lions take care of him. Right? Let the lions take care of him. So David HaMelech, he took care of the lions. But anyway, so Shmuel comes and he says, well, one of your sons, Yishai, one of your sons is the next king. And he lines up the sons, not you, not you, not you, not you, not you. So which one? You got any more? Yeah, there's the Gingy, the Gingy out in the field. Bring him in. And he comes in, he's the king. Why such a way? Why such a way? And then he had to fight Shaul, and Shaul found out and wanted to kill him, and why such a way? Because everything has to be hidden. All good things have to be hidden. They have to come roundabout. Why? That's the Kodesh Baruch Hu's business. Again, it goes back to the Adam Arisha with the Neshamas and the Uncle Sam. And Uncle Sam will try to spoil everything, so Kodesh Baruch Hu has to go around the back door, so Uncle Sam can't see what's going on. We don't understand these things. These are Al Pi Kabbalah. But the Ramchal understood it. Everything good has to come derech nistora, through weird things. I want to tell you a couple of ma'asim. Avigdor Miller was very big on this. Avigdor Miller was very big on this. All the misfortunes that come on a person, there's a reason behind it, and it could be the biggest blessing that you ever had. He knew a guy. There was one of the people in his shul. He had a store, and he was a very hard-working fellow. And he made an order with he took an order for what was the name of the store? Stop and Shop. Okay, there was a chain store that needed some merchandise, and they went to him and they wanted to buy the merchandise. He made an order, a big order. He was going to make a lot of money on the order. He didn't know that this Shop and Stop was a customer of the mafia. A mafia-run business had this customer, and when they heard that he had stolen he didn't know that he was stealing a customer. They came to him looking for a better deal, and he gave him a decent price. But the mafia didn't take a liking to that. So 2 nights later, his store was firebombed. Went up in smoke. Middle of the night, you get a phone call from the police. I think you have to come down to your store now, or what used to be your store. Devastated. What am I going to do now? Devastated. I don't know if he had insurance, he didn't have insurance. I don't know. Sometimes you're a wise guy, you don't take out insurance. It gets it. He was already weak. So he said, okay. So he said he gave up being a businessman, and he took a 9-to-5 job with the city. He found a job in the city. It was the biggest bracha. He had been killing himself. He had been living on 2 hours sleep a night. He didn't have a wife, didn't have a family, didn't have anything. His heart was already weak. His health was deteriorating. Now he's got a normal job, 9 to 5 job. He was able to start going. He started going back to the minyan. You know how when your own businessman, the minyan sort of slowly disappears. It starts with Yadav Mincha by Kosel Mairumi. We go to the Kosel Maravi, and he goes to Kosel Mairumi, right? And then Ma'ariv is in Kosel Mairumi, and then Shacharis is in Kosel Mairumi. If there's a Shacharis, Halavai is a Shacharis. He had a 9 to 5 job. He started going to Shacharis, right? And he found out a Daf Yomi over there. He started learning a little bit. He got his family back. He was a family man. It was the best thing. He got his health back. His heart got stronger. He was able to watch his health. His wife was able to cook decent meals for him. It was fantastic. It was fantastic. They have we have in the Gemara. It says Chasori Michser v'Hachiktani. Gemara. Chasori Michser v'Hachiktani. Nor the strict translation. The strict translation is Chasori Michser. There's something missing in the Brisa. The Brisa is missing a couple of details, and this is how you're supposed to learn it. Hachiktani. So they have he said in his yeshiva in Slobodka, they used to turn into a Yiddish saying. He says, Chasori Michsera, a guy lost his money, v'haki Ketani, then he started learning. Chasori Michsera, he lost all his money, haki Ketani, and that's how he started learning. A lady, there's a girl, you look at Shidduchim, everybody wants a good shidduch, so it was an American family, and they had a daughter to marry off, and they found a fantastic shidduch. They found a fantastic shidduch. Oh, he's a doctor. Oh, my son-in-law, a doctor, he's gonna, right? And then the doctor's mother mixed in, and she broke off the shidduch. Everybody, they already signed, everything, what's going to be? We waited so long for a good shidduch, and now everybody was heartbroken. I think the Miller says he knew this guy. This guy was a bum. He may have been a very good doctor, but as far as his Yiddishkeit was not worth anything. He was a bum. His hashkafas were terrible. He would have been terrible for this girl. She came from a very fine family. Finally, she found a computer technician who was a former yeshiva guy. He was into computers. Very fine fellow, very frum. She got married. They raised a very fine, frum family, yeshivish family, and he was, and they made he was a Ben Torah family. So getting the shidduch broken off was the biggest bracha for this girl. You don't know when you have a tragedy what's going to be. He says he knew there was one guy, Ben Torah. He knew Ben Torah, and he had in America. We don't have it so much over here, but in America you got a lot of Shkotzim. You got Puerto Ricans. You got Schwarzes. Right, so it says some Puerto Rican kids were banging on his window and trying to make annoy him. They could be very annoying. They're bored at night, and when they come home from school, they're bored, so they try to be annoying to people. So they're very annoying, and he was trying to concentrate on something, and he couldn't take it anymore, and he ran out the door, running after them. Now he's a big guy, and he would have made mincemeat out of them. He would have made mincemeat out of him, and he could. He was like 6 foot tall and 150 kilo. I don't know. 200 pounds. I don't know. And as he's running, he trips and he broke his arm. Broke both arms. So Victor Miller visited him, and he says, "That was the biggest bracha you got, that you broke your arms. What would have happened if you hadn't broken your arms? You would have caught up with them, made mincemeat out of them, and then their big brother would have come the next day to you, and who knows what he would have had, whether it had a knife or a pistol, or you don't know who his big brother is or his father, and they would have made mincemeat out of you. The fact that you couldn't, you tripped and broke your arms, it was the biggest bracha. Don't ever do that again. Don't start up with those guys. Victor Miller is very much against this, JDL and and don't start up with them. Just smile and just keep walking. Be friendly, but don't start up with them because they have a big brother. Accident. How many? I've heard several people.
If
People
it's
have
their,
people.
if
Huh?
it's their real brother, you never know.
Yeah, brother, not a brother. Yeah, but whatever. But the guy, they don't mind messing up a Jew. Bang bang, you're dead. They don't care. How many people? I've heard several stories. A lady had an accident. Right, she got into a car accident. It's terrible. Lost the car. His car was totaled, and then she had to go to the hospital. Terrible. Terrible. She missed her appointment and everything like that. Now the car's totaled. Now what about the money? And now she's in the hospital, incapacitated for a couple of weeks. But while you're in the hospital, you do tests, and they found the lump. If she hadn't had the accident and hadn't gone to the hospital, she would never have found the lump. And these things, it's a silent killer. It's a silent killer. You don't.
Story of the Moshe Rubin, the change, stabbed him.
Yeah.
Remember that
Yeah,
story?
I know.
There's a story. Our neighbor used to work by Change. Moshe Rubin used to work by Change, and
the guy came in and said,
when the Russian guy came in, while the door is opened, he's put his foot, and he pressed the emergency button, and then locked the door. They locked them both inside. The guys got so mad, they started stabbing him. They called the Hatzalah, and they called the police, and they tried to get in the door, but it was locked. Until the fire department came in, the guy stabbed him. He was lying on the ground for half an hour with like 20 stabs. They took him to the hospital. They thought he was dead. He was staying half an hour until they were able to break in. He said he made a huge kiddush afterwards. And he said he got to the hospital. Doctors couldn't believe how he's still alive. He got back himself. They were able to. After a few months, he recovered, and he said that they found out that one of his what's it called, the ovik to the heart, the main thing was
arteries.
was 95% clogged.
First of all, he didn't die of hemorrhaging because the knife stayed in there and it plugged up the hole. That was
Number two.
The knife plugged up the hole, so he didn't hemorrhage to death, didn't bleed to death, and then they found he had a heart
If he wouldn't have got to the hospital, he might have died from a heart attack.
attack. Anyway,
It's amazing.
the bottom line. We all have stories, but I have to stop now. They're going to come in from Mincha now. The bottom line, everything that happens, everything, it's for the good. We just have to wait and see it.
Okay, wait. Yeah, wait.